He was one of Wall Street's most trusted names. Charities, celebrities, and even Holocaust survivors gave him their life savings. For 20 years, he promised steady returns of 10 to 12% annually, and he always delivered. Until December 2008, when the entire thing collapsed. This is the story of Bernie Madoff's $65 billion Ponzi scheme, the largest financial fraud in American history. Bernie Madoff wasn't some street hustler. He was Wall Street royalty. He founded one of the first electronic trading platforms, served as chairman of NASDAQ, and advised the SEC on trading regulations. He lived in a Manhattan penthouse, owned homes in the Hamptons and France, and had a yacht collection worth millions. Everyone wanted Bernie to manage their money. Getting into his fund was considered a privilege. But it was all built on the biggest lie in financial history. Bernard Lawrence Madoff started his investment firm in 1960 with just $5,000 saved from his lifeguard job and his wife Ruth's teaching salary. He was 22 years old. Bernie was legitimately brilliant. He pioneered electronic trading systems that revolutionized Wall Street. His firm, Bernard Madoff Investment Securities, became one of the largest market makers on NASDAQ. This success gave him the reputation and credibility he'd later exploit. By the 1980s and 90s, Bernie was managing money for an exclusive clientele. Hedge funds, charities, universities, and wealthy individuals begged to invest with him. His strategy was supposedly complex, involving split-strike conversion using options and stocks. But here's the thing, nobody really understood it, and Bernie liked it that way. Year after year, Bernie delivered consistent returns of 10 to 12%, even when the market crashed. In 2001, when the dot-com bubble burst and most investors lost fortunes, Bernie's clients still made money. In 2008, during the financial crisis, Bernie's fund remained profitable. It seemed too good to be true. Because it was. Here's how the con worked. Bernie ran two businesses from his Manhattan offices. The legitimate market-making business operated on floors 18 and 19. The fraud happened on the 17th floor, in a small office with just a handful of employees who created fake account statements. Bernie wasn't investing anyone's money. He was simply taking new investors' deposits and using them to pay returns to earlier investors. This is called a Ponzi scheme, named after Charles Ponzi, who pioneered it in the 1920s. The fake trading statements showed profitable trades that never actually happened. As long as more money kept flowing in than flowing out, the scheme worked perfectly. Money flooded in. Celebrities like Kevin Bacon, Steven Spielberg's foundation, Elie Wiesel's Holocaust charity, the New York Mets owners. Even sophisticated hedge funds called feeder funds collected billions from their clients and handed it all to Bernie. But there were red flags everywhere. Harry Markopolos, a financial analyst, spent 9 years trying to convince the SEC that Madoff was running a fraud. He submitted detailed reports proving the returns were mathematically impossible. Investigated Madoff 5 times between 1992 and 2008. And every single time, they found nothing wrong. Why? Because Bernie Madoff was the SEC's trusted advisor. He helped write the rules for Wall Street. Investigators couldn't imagine that someone so respected, so integral to the financial system, could be running the biggest fraud in history. Bernie used his reputation as a shield. Meanwhile, Bernie lived like a king. A Manhattan penthouse worth $7 million. A beach house in Montauk worth $3 million. A villa in France worth $1 million. 4 yachts, including one named Bull. Private jets. Millions in jewelry for his wife. All funded by his victims' money. Then came 2008. The financial crisis hit, and suddenly everyone needed their money back. Hedge funds wanted to withdraw billions. Charities needed cash to survive. Individual investors panicked. Bernie faced $7 billion in redemption requests, but the money didn't exist. For the first time in decades, Bernie couldn't keep the con going. There weren't enough new deposits to cover the withdrawals. The pyramid was collapsing. He had two choices: disappear or confess. On December 10, 2008, Bernie called his sons Mark and Andrew to his apartment. Both worked at the legitimate side of his business and knew nothing about the fraud. Bernie sat them down and told them everything. "It's all just one big lie," he said. "Basically, a giant Ponzi scheme." His sons immediately contacted a lawyer who called the FBI. The next morning, December 11, 2008, two FBI agents arrived at Bernie's penthouse. "We're here to find out if there's an innocent explanation," they said. Bernie replied, "There is no innocent explanation." He was arrested on the spot. The news exploded worldwide. The most trusted name on Wall Street was a complete fraud. $65 billion had vanished. Thousands of lives were destroyed overnight. The victims weren't just rich celebrities. Ordinary people who'd saved their entire lives lost everything. Retirees faced poverty. Charities shut down. Universities lost their endowments. Holocaust survivor and Nobel laureate Elie Wiesel lost his life savings and his foundation's entire endowment, $15.2 million. "We thought he was God," Wiesel said. "We trusted everything in his hands." The Pick-Our Foundation lost $7.2 billion and shut down. The Robert I. LePan Charitable Foundation, which sent Jewish youth to Israel, collapsed. Dozens of charities that fed the hungry, funded medical research, and helped the poor simply ceased to exist. The damage wasn't just financial. Several victims committed suicide after losing everything. Bernie's own son Mark hanged himself exactly 2 years after his father's arrest, on the anniversary of the confession. His other son Andrew died of cancer in 2014, some say from the stress. On March 12, 2009, Bernie Madoff pleaded guilty to 11 federal felonies, including securities fraud, wire fraud, mail fraud, money laundering, and perjury. He refused to cooperate with investigators or name accomplices. On June 29, 2009, Judge Denny Chin sentenced Bernie Madoff to 150 years in federal prison, the maximum sentence possible. Bernie was 71 years old. The message must be sent that Mr. Madoff's crimes were extraordinarily evil, the judge declared. Bernie was sent to Butner Federal Correctional Complex in North Carolina, a medium-security prison. He became inmate number 617-7054. No more penthouse. No more yachts. No more power. His wife Ruth claimed she knew nothing about the fraud. Federal prosecutors allowed her to keep $2.5 million, while they seized everything else: the homes, the yachts, the jewelry, the art collection. She lives quietly in Connecticut, estranged from her surviving family. Court-appointed trustee Irving Picard has spent 15 years tracking down Madoff's money. As of 2024, he's recovered over $14 billion of the $20 billion in actual losses. But thousands of victims still haven't been made whole. From prison, Bernie gave occasional interviews. He showed little genuine remorse, often seeming more concerned with his reputation than his victims. "I'm not the monster I'm portrayed as," he claimed. His victims disagreed. On April 14, 2021, Bernie Madoff died in prison from kidney disease at age 82. He served less than 12 years of his 150-year sentence. To the end, he maintained that his wife and sons knew nothing about the fraud. Madoff's fraud exposed catastrophic failures in the sex oversight Since then, the agency has reformed its procedures, hired more experienced investigators, and takes whistleblower complaints more seriously. The scandal taught investors a hard lesson. If returns seem too consistent, too good to be true, they probably are. Legitimate investments have ups and downs. Only fraud shows steady profits year after year. But the real legacy is the thousands of destroyed lives. Retirement savings gone. Charitable organizations shuttered. Families torn apart. Trust in the financial system shattered. All because one man's greed knew no limits. Bernie Madoff proved that reputation and respectability can be the greatest disguises for evil. For 20 years, he looked his victims in the eye, attended their weddings and funerals, and stole their futures without blinking. His story isn't just about financial fraud. It's about betrayal on an unimaginable scale. If this story shocked you, wait until you hear about our next case. Elizabeth Holmes and Tyrannos, the fake blood testing company that fooled Silicon Valley investors out of billions. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And drop a comment telling us which fraud story you want covered next. See you in the next video.